Hello, gals and guys. Mr. Ambrose here with the fourth of the videos on the internet from the CodeHS site. And today we're going to talk about something referred to as the domain name system, or abbreviated as DNS. So at this point, we've talked about how the basic idea of the internet, right, is to send information from one computer to the other. And when this happens, right, this is happening digitally. We're sending binary numbers essentially from one computer to the other. And then my last video, we talked about, well, how does one computer find another computer over the internet? And that's done via IP addresses. And so we saw last time, like these would be examples of IP addresses where certain information is stored at, or devices are stored at those particular locations on the internet. And so if perhaps I take this IP address here, right, and then I copy that into my browser, right, that IP address will take me to this particular website, which you may recognize as the search site for Google. And while, okay, every single device on the internet is located at one of these IP addresses, this isn't what you do when you actually go to a particular website, right? You're not typing in this IP address to find a particular web page, right? You're doing something completely different. So the question is, right, how do you actually get and find that particular IP address? And so again, IP addresses are great because that allows us to locate where each device is on the internet. Each device has its own unique IP address. But again, for humans, that's not very useful, right, to do. And so what you typically do, right, when you go to a website is you type in that website's name. And so that's where this DNS comes into play. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and the basic idea of the domain name system is that it translates the names that you type in to the computer into the IP address so that we can locate where exactly those devices are on the internet. So, a website, any website will register a domain. So, say like Google, it registers, um, it'll register a domain such as google.com, or the code site that you guys have been using, CodeHS registers a domain, and so codehs.com will be, a domain. And then from there, the domain name system maps those domains to IP addresses. So these IP addresses here are IP addresses for these domains. And the basic idea of how this all works is, I guess, a good analogy would be how you perhaps store, phone numbers for your friends on your phone. And so when you perhaps want to contact one of your friends, you don't, I'm pretty sure you don't, type in their phone number when you perhaps want to call them. Instead, basically, you just hit their name, and then your phone will get the phone number and actually make the call so that you can talk with your friend. And so that's that way that you perhaps call your friends on your phone is the same way that this DNS works, right? Because if you have whatever your device is, if you want to perhaps get to any one of these web pages, what's going to happen is these web pages is not exactly where they're stored on the internet. The internet only recognizes these particular IP addresses. And so if you want to find exactly where Google is, or Google site is, or um, the example site that was listed here, you have to identify exactly what these IP addresses are, right? You're not gonna find these actually physically located on the internet. So again, the DNS, the domain name system, translates from domain names to IP addresses. And I'll use this particular domain name here to show you how that actually occurs on your computer. The first thing that happens is that when you type in, say, this particular website, your computer will check its own memory to see if it actually knows the IP address if you searched for this website before. So for perhaps like in previous searches, you've done searches for these particular websites, your computer already knows those IP addresses, and therefore your computer wouldn't have to go through this whole process I'm going to show you. But in cases when you're typing in a new website that your computer's never visited before, now it's going to have to go through the whole DNS process. The other thing I'll say is that where your computer stores these IP addresses in the memory on its computer is called the cache. That's where it stores these IP addresses for websites that you've visited in the past. So, okay, example.com, right? Your computer doesn't know the IP address. The first thing that happens is that your computer will go and ask a root server. And what your computer actually does is it works backwards on that domain name. So it's going to start with this com and ask this root server, hey, where is com? Where is the com server located? And in this diagram here, I should say that the DNS kind of works in a hierarchy. And so this will kind of highlight that. And where you only see perhaps one root server here, on the actual internet, there are more than just one root server. There, I believe, perhaps maybe 13 or 14 root servers actually on the internet, but they all know the same information. And what those root servers can find are where all these other servers are located on the internet. And all these other servers are referred to as top-level domain servers because they'll store their own information within each of these respective servers. So again, we'll go to the root server and we'll say, root server, where can I find information about .com domains? And the root server will search along that top-level domain and find exactly where the IP address for .com server. And I should say the root server only knows those top-level domain servers. That's all it has within its server. So now, knowing that this is the IP address for .com server, we go to the top-level domain server for .com, and we will ask that com server exactly where the example.com domain is located. And the thing is that that particular com server knows everything about any particular domain name that ends in .com. So codehs.com, example.com, google.com, any particular website that ends in .com, that server knows exactly the IP address for. But it will not perhaps know the IP address for stanford.edu or wikipedia.org or codehs.me. It only knows the IP addresses for those websites that end in .com. So again, we go to the com server, we say, hey, tell me information about example.com domains, com searches, and it finds the IP address for example.com. And so now your computer has that IP address, and it'll go to that IP address and ask the host server at example.com, where is www.example.com. And example.com, that particular server, stores all information about all these parts within it that are referred to as the subdomain of example.com. So www or about or mail or info.example.com, that example.com server knows exactly where those things are located. So again, we go to the example.com server, where is www.example.com, and that server tells us the exact IP address for www.example.com. And now your computer will take that IP address and it'll now store it within your cache. So we'll be able to now get information from that particular website, but also if we want to do the search later on, your computer doesn't have to go through this whole process again. It'll just know the IP address for this particular website. So now your computer, knowing the IP address to this particular domain name, it'll take that IP address and send the request to the server that contains that particular IP address. And so, again, knowing the IP address, we send the request, hey, send me your home page. And if you recall from the very beginning of the year when you guys learned HTML, right, you programmed on the code site and made your own HTML documents, and those documents, right, were stored on the code site. Well, this example.com, this www.example.com, with this IP address has documents there, or videos, or images. And in particular, right now, we're going to make the request, hey, send me your home page, send me that HTML document. And so that server picks up that particular HTML document, sends it to your computer, and then your computer can open up that particular document, and thus you see that particular web page. And so that's how that whole DNS process works. And I should say that that whole process, while it took me several minutes to do, your computer goes through that whole process in less than a second. So it's really, really quick. And in order to be able to have that really quick search process to find IP addresses to particular domains, that's where this hierarchy comes into play. Because this hierarchy kind of breaks things up so that you're able to find specific IP addresses to domain names in a quick and efficient manner, right? So because each layer is only in charge of a small amount of information, right? Because again, the .com server only knew information about these servers within the second level domain. It doesn't know anything about these servers here. Only within .com does it know those particular IP addresses to those servers. And then it's easy to add a single element to any layer. And in addition, it's very easy to add a new layer. And again, this allows it to make it really, really easy to find any particular IP address to a domain name on the internet, because you're not searching the entire internet, you're just breaking things down to quick and easy find any IP address. So just as another example, if perhaps we want to find the IP address to this particular website, right, again, we start backwards. Your computer goes to the root server and says, where is me? So, and the root server will tell you exactly where that's located. And then from there, we'll ask this server, where is codehs.me? And then that server will give this particular IP address to this server here, this host server. And then this host server, we can ask, where is carol.codehs.me? And that server will identify this subdomain within that server and tell us exactly this IP address. So that's how the domain name system works. I hope that this video helped you understand exactly how that whole process to finding IP addresses works through the domain name system. For this particular section, I'll ask you to complete the quiz, which has 2 questions. I'll ask you to watch another video. It's a shorter video than this one. I think it's only like 2.5 minutes. And then from there, complete the related exercise. And so that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And as always, please take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.